Hello. Been slowing down on my video making. Um, I made a couple of videos last weekend, but one of them I made it and then I got really depressed because of the subject matter. So I made another one which was about um, David Koresh and Jesus Christ, but I didn't like how it turned out. So I didn't do anything and then got into a just hit a wall of exhaustion and burnout. And anyway, that happens. You know, what are you gonna do? Had to process it. You know, you're. This is dark. Some of this stuff is dark, man. This is a part of my life that is long gone. I have moved on so far beyond all of this stuff. Okay, this is almost like a different me in terms of where my confidence in myself. Like today, if I knew David Koresh today, I would just also maybe partly just shake my head and just be amazed at how someone could get themselves into a situation like that in terms of their own way of thinking, and also probably laugh at him because he's just such a I don't know, a pathetic example of what human beings potential, you know, because he's always putting forth this idea of being whatever so great. Um and so my point is that to go back sometimes is hard because I'm not, that's I'm so beyond that now. um But today, anyway, there's one video that I made last weekend, which I will release at some point, maybe Wednesday. I'm not going to make any promises anymore and I'm not going to do any poll. I'm sorry for those who are waiting for topics that I have said I might do in the past. That doesn't work. What I do is I just think of something and then I just make the video. And so that's the way I'm going to be doing it from now on. I'm working um, by choice because I'm trying to improve my financial situation, but I'm working a lot of overtime, and so consequently there's less time for other things. And then the other thing is that as I've been dealing with some insomnia, which I do get occasionally, so that's the way that goes. So, but today we're going to talk about when someone just needed a hug, right? So, okay, so let's set the scene. So this is at New Mount Carmel. Let's just say it's 1989, earlier in the year. It's got to be maybe 1988. In other words, what I'm saying is that we spent a final 10 months, me and my wife, and then my oldest daughter, spent a final 10 months at New Mount Carmel Center. And we went back. There's somebody in my comments that likes to point out that I went back. I don't know how they know that. Maybe they know that because I've mentioned it at some point, or I don't know. But anyway, it's true. It's true. We had been living in Camp Palestine in 1987, where I was allowed to, I will describe it as fester and rot at Camp Palestine while Vernon went off and did all of his things that he likes to do because of he's his own, he's got free will. He can do whatever he wants. Whereas we have to sit around and do what he says, which I always hated because, we humans naturally love to be in charge of their own, have agency. I don't want to just sit around and do what somebody else wants me to do all the time. And in the group that was called being obedient, like there was some kind of Being obedient was supposed to be some kind of amazing thing. If you're just obedient, then something's supposed to happen, which, yeah, right. Um, well, there was a job opportunity that I heard about in Houston. And so, long story short, we ended up in Houston. I'm not going to tell that story right now completely. But then things went wrong. When I say things went wrong, I mean things went horribly wrong. Probably one of the most horrible things that could ever happen to somebody, in terms of your life, your family life, and your, you know, so loss of a child. And again, that's not a story that I've told, but it was dark and it was horrible. So, because of that, I I've told you in the past that when things happen like that, then you're very likely to interpret it as, well, it's my fault or God is punishing me. So that was the catalyst for me and my wife getting back to Mount Carmel. So we moved back to Mount Carmel around, let's see, about July of 1988. And yeah. So okay, so for 10 months, from July of 1988 to May of 1989, what I have called 10 months of pure hell, he was getting really bad. When I say really bad, I'm speaking just becoming more and more of an asshole, basically. I don't know how else to describe it. Okay? It's very simple. He used to be nicer. He was getting meaner. Okay? He used to be able to express some compassion. He's becoming less compassionate. He used to have more self-control. He's having less self-control. Okay? He's just getting worse. He's evolving towards having less restraint. Okay? In other words, at the beginning of his ministry in 1983, more restraint, more the adoption of standard social protocols. You just can't go calling people names all the time, just whatever comes out of your mouth just because you feel like it, maybe restraining a bit, things like that. But then as time goes on, as he acquires more power within the group, as people are more, obedient to him, which I would say because of essentially fear, because he's ratcheting up the rhetoric all the time, then the atmosphere in the last 10 months that I was there, and then it went on for another 4 years after I was gone. I can only imagine. I mean, you don't know how happy I am, and I was, ultimately to get out of there. I've told that story where I left, and then initially I was still trapped in here, but then I left. And then, oh, man, because it was bad. It was so bad. And then one of the things is he was especially hostile towards me and my wife. So anyway, one day while we were living at New Mount Carmel, I'll just say it was 1988. I don't remember exactly. Me and my wife lived in a few different houses while we were there. We initially lived with Perry Jones, which I didn't like Perry. Perry was not a good person, and I could tell stories and explain why he wasn't. I haven't told that yet. It's not really super important, but he was not a good person. He was what I would consider to be a bad person, objectively bad. Not just my opinion, but bad. He was universally disliked. So we were living with Perry and Maribel. Maribel was beaten down. She was a beaten down person. She seemed like she was tired all the time. And I feel sorry for her having to have been married to Perry because, yeah. Anyway. We were going to a trade school, me and my wife. I was finally getting an education in basically drafting and also computer-aided drafting. And so that was important to me. On the other hand, Vernon didn't give a crap about any of that stuff because he didn't care, as usual. But, you know, coming home from school, and we were told that we were in trouble in some way, I guess. I remember it being like, oh, you and Debbie have to go talk to Vernon. So before they started rebuilding on the site of the administration building that had burned down, okay, it burned down in 1983. This is 1980, 89, and they still haven't started building anything on that spot where ultimately, where everything was, you know, the giant complex that they ended up building there started out as a small structure, which ended up essentially being the meeting house and the kitchen. But that didn't even exist yet. And we had one of the houses on the property before they had been torn down, of course. And they were torn down so that people wouldn't have places to have sex, for forbidden, you know, relationships between men and women. But before any of this happened, there was a kitchen that was in one of the houses. And there was I think a couple of benches along in the living room, along the walls toward the front of the house. And me and my wife went in there. And there, who was there but Vernon and his brother, oh God. I don't remember his brother's name. I'm sorry, I'm tired. So his brother was there. And, you know, his brother was not an impressive person, but I'll just chalk that up maybe to some disadvantages of life and everything. Yeah, I mean, I don't have particularly strong feelings about him either way. He didn't stay very long. You know, he couldn't hack it. It's very strict there. So we were called in, and essentially what ended up being in trouble was actually we were getting our own room. We wouldn't have to share a house anymore. We were getting one of the rooms in one of the duplexes. You know, some of the houses at Mount Carmel were a house that was a duplex, which is essentially 2 single rooms with a shared bathroom toward the back. I don't know why I'm doing this. Whatever. Yeah. 2 rooms, each with their own separate front entrance. And then, you know, a bathroom connecting both. So you have to share a bathroom, which kind of sucks. But anyway. So yeah, because Michelle Jones was pregnant and she was going to move in with her parents, Perry and Maribel. And so she would have been 14. Yeah. So me and my wife kind of just tried to pretend like we weren't excited at this punishment of being moved away from somebody that I really don't like very much, Perry, and having our own place, having some privacy. And this was the last place we lived before we were kicked out. So, anyway, we're being dressed down by Vernon. We have to listen to him run his mouth, you know, blah, 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 blah. It's, oh my God, after a while. So condescending. Treat you like a little child, tell you things that you know are bullshit, but you can't say anything because every stupid word that comes out of his mouth is inspired of God, right? Because God will direct all his ways. You know, running my wife down. I'm not in a very good mood about it, quite frankly. I'm just so sick of talking about him. I'm sorry. That's what I'm telling you, the darkness and everything. It's... Anyway, I just have just more of the contempt and is coming out for him. I have a video coming up on, excuse me, what is evil, and also calling good evil good and good evil. So while we were talking to Vernon. And I've been given permission to talk about this from the person this happened to, which is Dana. Right? So a lot of you might know who Dana is. And I can speak about her. I have permission, but this is her story. But the thing is that she doesn't remember it, and I have told her about it a couple of times. But it's absolutely true. I remember this quite vividly because it struck me, and I'll explain why. It took your brain is weird because obviously as you go through life, things happen to you and you forget most of them. But sometimes something will trigger something in your mind and then it will become a memory. And you'll look back on it and you can recall it and you can see certain things. I can see Dana there. So she came to the back door. And now I'm a sensitive person in the sense that I pay maybe more than average attention to people's moods and demeanor. I remember being that way from a little child, and I don't know how else to describe it. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm more compassionate or anything like that. I'm not saying that I'm obviously without compassion, but I am. But I notice things maybe a little bit more. I guess you could say it's kind of like an empath, but I would mean like from a natural point of view. Nothing supernatural, of course, but just being a little bit. And when I say little, maybe just a few percent, maybe 2 or 3, 4, 4 or 5% more noticing of people's emotions and everything than average. So Dana comes to the back door, and I immediately notice that she's in distress. Okay, emotional distress. She has had a baby, and she's the member of the House of David. And I don't remember specifically why she wanted to talk to Vernon, because and it's not really that important. It's just that she needed to talk. Okay, and really what it was, as I could tell very quickly, is she just needed a hug. She needed really essentially what was her husband to stop what he was doing and just take some time and let's go off somewhere and just talk and really just listen. It's hard, right? I mean, sure, we've got this message and we're trying to save the world and you're supposed to study your Bible all day long and you're supposed to just fall on the rock. And what was one of the common phrases in the group? Fall on the rock, which became just a meaningless nothing. After a while, everybody would tell each other to fall on the rock and be like, fuck you, fall on the rock, So stupid. I'm not saying that the F word was used. I'm saying that is kind of, you develop your own way of telling people to shut up, Just fall on the rock, okay? And fall on the rock, of course, is just, hey, it's hard, but too bad. You're just going to have to you're just going to have to suck it up and deal with it, right? I've got my own problems. And she was having some kind of moment of a super, just really, sometimes that happens, right? We just get upset. And part of being human, and when I say part of being human, it's part of being human for that to happen to you sometimes. It's happened to me. It's happened to people I love, my family. And the other part of being human is when you see somebody like that, hey, this is a signal that maybe it's time to shift gears, right? Maybe it's time to try something else. Maybe it's time just to say, okay, I see that you've got something on your mind. Maybe I'll just, let's sit down and let's talk about it, right? Do we have to always be balls to the walls, end of the world, crisis mode? Of course not. Now, the problem with Vernon, at this point, especially one of the problems I think is he's in the room with other people. He's there with his brother and with my wife and with me. And Dana's, I think she was pushing the stroller with her young baby in there. And Vernon, of course, is not good at this stuff. He's quite bad at it. There's a scripture talking about the Messiah in Isaiah, and it says, a bruised reed he will not break, right? And smoking flax he will not quench. The interpretation of that to me is that the Messiah is going to be a person who's more encouraging, right? If you're just ready to snap, he's not going to go ahead and just break you down. If you're just about ready to burn out, he's not going to just, quench you. He'll be a person that would be more in tune with people's emotional needs, and well, that's not Vernon. And he saw that she was I think she was starting to cry. I don't remember if she actually cried, but she was on the verge. And you could tell in the facial expressions and everything, just distraught. And he said something to the effect, if you crack up now, I'll kick your ass. Something like that. I remember that very well. And I remember thinking at the time how cruel it was, when she just needed a hug. And I wish that I could tell you that I was brave and I was righteous and stood up for truth and everything, but I didn't. I kept my mouth shut. Because this stuff makes people worse. It made me a worse person. A bad person, to be around somebody bad and have to put up with their bullshit and their evil and their wickedness. Because Vernon was a wicked, evil, disgusting piece of shit. And I want my people that follow my channel to understand that very clearly. That is truly and actually how I feel about him. And this story illustrates that. Just one of so many that I could tell. He made everyone around him worse. Now, when I say that, it doesn't mean that I'm saying that everybody was bad or evil or wicked or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it was a bad environment. It brought out more of the bad side of people. We all have bad sides. You know that. We do. I do, of course. It's normal. And in those kinds of situations where you've got someone up at the top, someone just needed a hug, that's all. Dana needed a hug. Dana needed someone just to listen. That's it, right? Sometimes you just need someone to talk to. Someone to just, hey, I just need to be quiet now and I need to listen. He was not good at that. He wanted to be the one that was talking. He wanted to be the one that was constantly running his mouth. He hardly ever shut up. So annoying. He would say, you see, all the time. You see, you see, you see, you see, like a freaking moron. No, I don't see. Anyway, yeah, that's where I've been for the past week. I mean, I know I didn't go that long without putting on a video, but for crying out loud, have to have this guy in your brain all the time, man. Let me tell you. It's not fun. Yeah, it's not fun. Then I'll be okay because I talk to my wife, because at least I have someone I can talk to. Because we've both been through the same thing. So she understands. So that's okay. And, I have my family and everything. And yeah. But to come back to it again, even now, this morning, it just gets me, I'm still not really ready to go back into pure historical mode. I'm still, oh God. Yeah, someone posted in my comments, Well, if he could come back and I could confront him, believe me, in one sense, from my point of view, this is just my opinion. He got away with it. He got away with it. He got to go out on his own terms. Okay? He came up against the federal government. Okay, and whatever you think about that, it runs the gamut from people thinking, "Oh my God, he got everything he deserved," and then it runs the range all the way over to he's complete, total, 100% innocent victim, never did anything wrong ever, and the government is Satan. That whole range, to me, of views all fits into my view, which I'm telling you right now, I'm trying to express, which is that he got to maintain his independence till the very end, in my opinion. Up here, he was free. Yeah. And then he passed off into the great beyond, whatever that is, right? He has left this earth, left this mortal body that we all possess, which we all will go the same way someday, and he has passed on to meet whatever the future holds for him. And so he got to do that. He got away in a sense if he never had to face anybody, me or any of the survivors or whatever. Some people were waiting for David, right? That was Clive. Clive was a good guy, but he believed and waited till the very end, and passed away last year, unfortunately. But David never came, and other people are still waiting. I'm not waiting. I don't. I mean, I know, to me, it's obvious he's not coming back because. But Anyway, yeah. That's really just my story. Is fundamentally incapable most of the time of just showing some basic compassion. And now when I say this, I don't mean that he never ever did. I'm not saying that. I'm sure he did sometimes. I wasn't around him most of the time at this point. Okay. So, I'm sure he still had his moments. But on the other hand, there's still a lot of stories where I just recently got a hold of some recordings of some studies that I had not that I lost them. I had given some tapes to Clive Doyle, 27 years ago, because I didn't need them anymore. And then, of course, Clive passed, and one of the researchers who did the book for him, if anybody read his book, she kindly gave me a connection, a link to, and lo and behold, many of the tapes were there. So I have access to a lot of the studies in verbal form. I had transcribed some of them. So I have more material now. One of the studies that I did last weekend, now I have an audio format of it, so I'll have to redo that. And so, yeah, I'll probably be talking about lighter subjects for a while. This was the one I wanted to do because I did want to talk about this. And the hug. Hugging is important, right? Sometimes we all just need a hug. So I'll leave you with that. The content will just be coming out when it comes out. I'm not going to set any more schedules or deadlines for myself because I've explained why. And if I seem kind of out of it, I'm just tired and I'm just trying to deal. And but I'm going to be okay. And I'm not asking anybody to worry about me. I'm fine. I've done this before. I'm a big boy, but I have, resources I can draw upon to deal with situations like this. But I just need to work through it and maybe spend some time doing other things. So, which I have been doing. So, anyway, signing off for now. Like I said, I will attempt to get an unreleased video out Wednesday. I'll have to I'm going to redo it and put some surrounding explanation video around the front and the back of it because I need to add a little bit more to it. But maybe Friday, maybe Wednesday, we'll see. Till then, signing off.